What's up, everybody? Back again. Here to talk Packers Chiefs tomorrow. I'm super excited. Another preseason game is on their way tomorrow night, and it's going to be a big game for a lot of these guys that are on the bubble. There's a lot of spots on the Packers roster that we know are locks, but there's a lot of spots that are open. We knew going into camp that there'd be roster battles. And this Chiefs game is a big deal for a lot of these guys. So it's going to be really exciting watching them. It's exciting for a lot of reasons. One, because it's another game the Packers are playing, preseason game, but it means that we're closer to the regular season. After tomorrow night's game, will be just about 2 weeks away. So super exciting. We're so close. The 6 months from February is a long time. I get it. So I'm excited too. Cannot wait. So what I'm looking for during the Packers Chiefs game, there's going to be a lot of roster battles throughout the whole game. There's question marks on pretty much both sides of the ball, special teams, receiver. Obviously big question marks when it comes to who's going to play where on the offensive line and how that's all going to shake out, and how many people at each position the Packers are going to keep, what Gutekunst and LaFleur want to do. I'm excited to see how this roster shakes out. The whole new strategy behind the practice squad is so much different than it used to be. They can kind of lock guys so that they can't get stolen, but I think it's only like 4 every week or something like that. And if you can, I don't know, it's how it all structures, but it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out. I think it kind of throws a little spin on all this. It's not always keeping the best 53. It's keeping the guys that other teams would take if you put them on the practice squad, and then trying to negotiate how you can put some guys who you want to keep but might not get stolen by other teams on the practice squad, just to kind of make room for somebody else. So there's a lot of strategy that goes into it all. It'll be really fun to watch. I can't Tuesday is when they have to make this decision to go down to 53 with the 16-man practice squad, so 69 players. But that's in 6 days, so right around the corner, less than a week for these guys. So they really need to step up and start showing what they can do. Otherwise, they will be cut, and that will be it for their season unless they figure out something else. But a lot of these guys, this is it pretty much. If you don't make this team, and some guys get taken to get swiped by other teams and all that, but a lot of guys basically just don't make a roster then. So, but big news yesterday, kind of. Mercedes Lewis over the weekend brought the tight ends in and had like a 15-minute discussion with them. Really sent home the Packers message of just what is expected from a tight end and what Packers tight ends are expected to do. So I guess the message hit home for Tyler Davis. He really stepped up in yesterday's practice. That was huge to see. It's just been a while since you've heard his name in a good way. He had the fumble in the Saints game. He's had false starts in games and in practice. He's had holding calls, and so he's just had a tough camp so far. So to finally see him come out and do something was really exciting. He's definitely going to be a player to watch. The tight end room is, with Tanya coming back from an injury, you just worry about that knee. Mercedes Lewis is older, so he's not really the pass catcher he used to be. So a guy like Tyler Davis could really come in and have a role. Obviously, they have Josiah DeGuara, too, who's the third-year guy that's not really stepped up the way they thought. He was a third-round draft pick, so he was drafted pretty high. So they really thought highly of him, and he just hasn't developed the way they'd like. They also have that guy, Sal Cannella. He's a long shot to make the team, but if Tyler Davis or DeGuara really struggle a lot in this next game, and Cannella has a big game, you never know. So crazier things have happened. So we will see, but Tyler Davis having a big day yesterday just shows that maybe something clicked for him, or he just kind of figured something out. So I look forward to seeing what kind of game he can have tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see how he plays, especially because Love should play most of the game. None of the starters are starting at all. Rodgers won't be playing. Neither of the running backs. Obviously, Lazard and Watkins and all those guys are not playing. Bakhtiari is not playing. Jenkins is not playing. And pretty much all the starters on defense are not playing. Nobody that hasn't played yet will play, is what LaFleur said. So pretty much nobody that will be playing week 1 at all. But for Love, this is a big game. Love had a game last year where Rodgers got COVID. Love was given the starting job to go down to Kansas City and play Patrick Mahomes at Arrowhead, which he did, and he played okay. He had a touchdown, he had some yards, but you could tell that I think he had an interception too, so he had a touchdown and a pick, I think, and then he had some yards, but you could tell that he was just not in sync with the receivers. He had a lot of passes that were just thrown in the wrong area, a lot of passes that were thrown in a way that was just too cautious, too safe, and then a lot of misreads where the receiver ran a route that he thought was right and Love threw it to a completely different spot. So you could tell they just weren't on the same page, and that was a big issue. The thing is, though, the defense held us in that game. I think the final score was like 13-10, and so for the Packers defense to hold Mahomes to 13 points in Arrowhead, that was a sign for me that showed us that our defense was kind of starting to get somewhere here. They're going to be so good this year. It's super exciting that, this is finally all coming together. We haven't had a defense this good in a long time, and I don't even think the Super Bowl defense in 2010 was this good. We had Raji and Matthews and Collins, but this one's stacked on every level, and there's multiple layers to this, so it's super exciting. And just this offensive side of the ball, if I think Rodgers can make it work, I think this is going to be a scary team for sure. It just looks like there's a lot of tough teams out there this year. The Rams look tough. There's just Tampa Bay looks tough now. It just looks tough. Dallas is always kind of a question mark, but you never know with them. So it's going to be a fun year. I think the defense will keep us in a lot of games, and I think Rodgers will be able to pull a lot out. I think if there's any delay with these rookie receivers kind of coming on during the actual games, that's going to delay the Packers' success. But I really think that the schedule is kind of working in our favor. So something to watch for later on. But it's also, Love, this is going to be his last game pretty much of the season that he's going to get to play. So this is really the last time we'll get to see him really suit up and play. So unless something happens to Rodgers, of course, or if the Packers are in the playoffs and we don't have to play that Week 18 game against Detroit with the starters, maybe we'll see Love then. Kind of what happened last year. So we'll see how that goes. But for Love, this is going to be the last game he really gets to play. So he's got, he should learn a lot from it either way. But this is the last time to really prove that he can do it, or he's figured it out, or show the development he's had. And I think we've kind of seen the stages of it thus far. The first week against San Fran, he kind of struggled, but had some good throws. Had the picks, though, which some weren't his fault, but still, they get the credit for the interception. So last week, he played really well. Not as many yards. He was only 12 of 24. I think only 113 yards, but a touchdown, no mistakes. The fumble was a throw he threw to Tyler Davis, and then Tyler Davis fumbled it. So, ups and downs, but so far he looks good, and this will be the game where he really has to prove that, when Rodgers is done, Love, has shown enough development that, yeah, he can be the guy in the future. So something exciting for us to watch, and then Arrowhead's so tough to play in. So for Love, it's going to be a really good learning experience. Obviously, he got some of it last year, but this year, it's preseason, so it might be a little less loud, but still, it's still a cool environment, and, those fans get at it. So, but anyway, on the offensive side of the ball, Love will be throwing it to, Watson, Dobbs, Samari Torre. Amari Rodgers will probably be out there for sure. Juwan Winfrey and Ishmael Hyman's still on the squad. So, there's a lot of those top guys are pretty much locks. I think Winfrey's going to make it, but I haven't heard his name a lot so far. So this is going to be a big opportunity for a lot of these guys. Yes, I think Watson will play. They said if he's good to go, he will play. So I don't know if he'll be back there on punt returns as well. I don't know if he'll be just running a few routes on, as a wide receiver, or what they'll have him doing. I think maybe they'll want to get him some looks just because he will probably have some reps in games, but we'll see how they bring him along. We might not even see him week one, depending on if he's the punt returner or if he's, just that wide receiver 5 or 6, because of all the talent they have, and the guys that Rodgers trusts are a little bit ahead of him. So we'll see how that plays out. But if he can come out and have a big game, it could be huge for the Packers. If Dobbs can have another touchdown, he's already had one in both of the preseason games. And so both passes from Love as well. So we'll see what he can do. And then, like I said, Samari Torre, he's a guy that has had flash moments all through camp here and there, but this is kind of where he makes his push for the roster instead of the practice squad. Seventh round receiver, he's kind of on that bubble. Amari Rodgers is the guy that they want to see a lot of come out, or see him make a jump this year finally. Last year he didn't do anything really. I think he had like 4 catches, not very many kick return yards. I think Kylan Hill, even though he tore his ACL October 29th, tied him for kick return yards for the whole season. So just shows that Rodgers didn't do much when he got the ball. So I look for him to step it up, on special teams and on the offense. There's a lot of plays that they can use with him, his speed and just some of his agility and some of his, the way he plays. So I think they can get him on some end arounds or some, jet sweeps. And he's a guy that can, make some lanes and get downfield quickly. So I'd like to see him get into the offense, but there's so many other guys that are good, and if Rodgers isn't cutting it, then we just probably won't see a whole lot of him. He's a guy that I thought was kind of on the bubble, but they drafted him so high last year. He was a third-rounder as well, like DeGuara was, so they really want to see something out of these two guys. DeGuara was 2 years ago, Rodgers was last year, so. But then like I said, we have Juwann Winfree. He's a guy that Rodgers already kind of shouted out and said, 88 and 87 are playing well. So I don't think the Packers will make the same mistake they did with Jay Kumaro. I think they'll keep Juwann Winfree this time and make Rodgers happy just because he did kind of say his name out loud in the media, and, that's kind of what he did with Kumaro as well, and they didn't keep him. So I think things like that will change just because Rodgers has a little more say now. So, and then the running backs, it's kind of, with Tylan Hill going on the PUP list now, it kind of just clarifies that, yes, Tyler Goodson will be the number 3, and they probably will keep Patrick Taylor. Maybe they'll go out and get a running back that comes off another squad if he gets cut or something. There's going to be a lot of running backs available based on all the cuts that are about to happen. But they also, having the running backs just come out and stop doing everything they've been doing, they want to make sure that each running back can play the position the way they want them to play, So we have a guy like Patrick Taylor who fumbles a lot and just, he's kind of struggled with injuries, so I don't know how he's going to be. We have Dexter Williams, the guy that came out of out of the USFL after being drafted by the Packers years ago. I just don't know if he's got a lot of looks in camp. I just don't know if he's a guy that they're going to keep on this squad. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with these 3 or 4 running backs if they keep that many on this roster. With Kylan Hill kind of already waiting on the PUP list, maybe they'll just keep 3 with Tyler Goodson, or maybe, like I said, they'll go out and find somebody else, but we'll see. I mean, if Goodson comes out and plays really well, he had, a lot of receptions. One of those drives, he had like a 9-yarder, a 9-yarder, a 15-yarder, and another like 9-yarder. So he, really had a lot of pop plays, a lot of splash plays, and he's a guy that looks like he's ready to be on this team. So we'll see what shakes out. It's really do or die for guys like him. Undrafted guy, Patrick Taylor's kind of on the bubble too. Like I said, all these guys are kind of just behind Dillon and Jones. So Packers are pretty much set. They don't really need a big, they need somebody that can come in and do what they need them to do. So that's basically what it comes down to. And if some of these guys don't cut it, maybe they'll go out and find somebody else. So that's something that, tomorrow, if they can run the ball like they did against the Saints. I think they had like 181 yards or something like that before Daddy Entling took knees. And he'll be fun to watch too, but we know he's a practice squad guy too, so I didn't really mention him too much. But, that 51-yard touchdown last week, that was fun to watch. And now the offensive line. So the offensive line is going to shake out kind of a little bit more clear now because of the trade of Cole Van Lanen. Officially, they traded him to the Jacksonville Jaguars for a 7th-round pick. And so that's a pretty good deal for a guy that, hasn't really started in this league much or hasn't really played a whole lot to get an actual draft pick. I know, I don't think Cole Van Lanen was drafted. So undrafted guy getting a draft pick for him, that's kind of a win. But if Cole Van Lanen goes on to be like a Pro Bowl player, then maybe they'll be like, oh, shoot, we should have got more. But it is what it is for now. So the offensive line going to shake out like this. We know that Bakhtiari should be back soon, and Jenkins looks like he'll be ready week 1 either way. I think maybe Bakhtiari might, I don't know. I don't want to say he might be like week 2 or 3, but he could be. I just think the Packers wanted him on the roster so they could kind of solidify other stuff. But with the trade of Cole Van Landen, now they have, starting tomorrow night will be Yash at left tackle, John Runyon Jr. at left guard, Josh Myers at center, Jake Hansen at right guard, and then Royce Newman at right tackle. So pretty much the same offensive line they've been having this whole camp, kind of the initial offensive line they came out with when camp started, and then the guys they kept, they've rotated in Zach Tom, who I like. It sounds like a lot of other people like him. He's just really technically sound player. Came out of Wake Forest. He's a smart guy, and he just really wants to play well and learn these positions. So I think that if there's any issues with either guard or the right tackle, I think Zach Tom will come in and be that replacement guy, the first replacement. But hopefully nothing happens to anybody, knock on wood. And hopefully Bakhtiari is ready week 1, so Yash doesn't have to play. But I think Yash is really good. He's really showed that he can do what he needs to do at left tackle. That's a tough spot to play, so it's really exciting to see his progress. He kind of got thrown in the mix last year, and he really, showed up and made us believe that he could do it. And now with another year in the system, another year at the position, he didn't start football until later on in his life. So for him, it's still kind of new, but I really like just his size and his physical tools and all that. And he's a guy that's figuring it out. So, but behind him, this line number 2, this is where the position battles really start. This is where it's who's going to make it on this roster, because those 5 guys plus Bakhtiari and Jenkins, that makes 7, and then you have Zach Tom, that's 8. So pretty much I think they're going to keep 9, so that means one of the other 4 guys will make it on the 53-man, and then the rest of the 3 guys will be on the practice squad or cut officially. So Caleb Jones at left tackle, he's the big 6'9" guy. Biggest Packer on the team. I think he's the biggest Packer ever, technically. If he would make the team, he would be. So we'll see if that happens. I've liked what I've seen out of him. He's really been consistent, and this is a big opportunity for him to show that he can play left tackle. Left tackle is obviously a sought-after spot. That's where the big money is for these guys on the offensive line. So if he can come out and show that he can play, whether he gets a job here or somewhere else, that'll be, something to see. But I think he's a guy that has a chance. Next to him, left guard is Zach Tom. I've already mentioned him. I think he's a lock, and he's the guy that I really like. I think he could start over Jake Hansen or Royce Newman, but it seems like they're going to give those guys a chance first because they kind of have seniority. Next to him at center is Michael Manet. I think he's going to be cut. He's played good at center, but I think there's other guys that can step in and play center if needed. Jenkins can play center. I know Zach Tom played center in college. I know probably Jake Hansen can move on. I think Royce Newman played center and at least got rotated in. So we'll see about him. He's a guy that I don't think will be here. But the next to him at right guard is Sean Ryan, the 3rd rounder, again, draft pick out of UCLA. 6'4", 320. This guy's got 11-inch hands. So I like this guy. I really think that he could be really good for a long time. It's just taken him a little bit to develop here early on in camp. He didn't really make that transition as quickly as Zach Tom did. I thought he'd actually be ahead of Zach Tom. I like Tom, though, coming out. I really did. But Sean Ryan, I thought he'd be ahead of him. But he's a guy that I do like, and I think he'll be on the team. And then next to him at right tackle is Rasheed Walker. Young guy out of Penn State. He's, if he can play really well, he has a chance to be in the practice squad. We drafted him. So it looks like he might be sticking around. I don't think he'll be on the 53, but he's a guy to watch just because he's a big kid too. So exciting to have such a battle up front. It's been a long time since the Packers had so much depth at offensive line. Sometimes they'll have like a guy that's a little bit of a piece to the puzzle that can rotate different positions. But right now we have so many of those players. We have 2 basically all-pro guys in Jenkins and Bakhtiari. And then there's a lot of young guys that really want to step up and play. So it's exciting what kind of mix of talent they have on this offensive line. And then you flip it to the defensive line, and we have the same issue. Been a long time since we've had defensive line depth on the Packers. It's been so long. For years we'll have like a guy or two, but never a consistent guy. And for so long, Packers missed on draft picks: Justin Harrell, Jamal Reynolds, and that's just two. So I think there's probably more defensive linemen that we whiffed on, but right now there's guys in camp that I think can really play. Obviously, Kenny Clark's he'd be an all-pro guy if Aaron Donald and Fletcher Cox weren't in the NFC, but he's basically the third best defensive tackle behind those two guys. And then next to him will be Jaron Reed and Dean Lowry, so that's huge. But what I want to see is the guys that's actually going to play tomorrow night, and that the rookie Devontae Wyatt, I really want to see him step up. I think it's been a tough camp for him. You know, he's 24 years old, so he's a little bit older than most rookies. I thought he'd come on a little bit quicker, but it's taken him a little bit. He looked explosive in the game against the Saints. That's the first preseason game I think he played. I don't think he played against the Niners, but he looked really explosive. He just was like a second late, and you know, some of his angles were off. So when he got past his guy, he was so far away from the quarterback that, you know, kind of why his guy let him go, because his momentum just carried him where the quarterback wasn't. So Wyatt just has to clean up some of those technique issues, and I think he can really be a disruptive player. I liked what I saw, just his quick feet and his motor, and he's so strong and powerful that he can really be a guy that he just needs to be coached up a little bit. But he's somebody I want to watch just because he was the first round draft pick, or one of the two first round draft picks, and he's just going to get a lot of looks. So he's somebody to watch. And then next to him is the two Slaytons. They're spelled different. One's with a Y and one's without a Y. But TJ Slayton and Chris Slayton both are vying for a backup spot on that defensive line. TJ was on the team last year, but Jack Heflin's been playing so good that it's going to be a battle to the end with these three guys, I think. Jonathan Ford's the 7th round draft pick. He might get cut or be on the practice squad. He won't be on the 53, but TJ Slayton, Chris Slayton, and Heflin are really battling for the spot next or after Wyatt or before Wyatt. Just one of those three guys will probably make it. I don't think two of those three, just because they already have three guys with Clark, like I said, Lowry and Reed, and then you add Wyatt. So really doesn't leave room for a sixth guy. They might keep six, but it's been a while, and since they're keeping probably 9 offensive linemen, and they'll have to keep probably 7 or 8 receivers. It looks like they might keep 8. I don't think that sounds like so many. I know they don't have a fullback. They'll use a tight end for a fullback. I just think that 8's too many. So I think Samori Torre might be on the practice squad, but we'll see if they all make it. They all make it, and that is going to limit how many defensive linemen we can have in all other positions. So something to watch for, but that's a spot where I'm really looking forward to seeing how these guys step up. Like I said, Devontae Wyatt is somebody that I really think can pop and just be explosive this year. If you put him next to Kenny Clark and have him have one-on-ones and he can figure out his angles, this guy can be dominant for real. So something to watch. You know, the linebackers, these outside linebackers are going to be a huge deal in this game. You know, we have J.J. Enagbar, the rookie, who I like a lot. And then you have guys like Kobe Jones and Ladarius Hamilton, who's starting to step up again after being injured. So those three guys we know. Randy Ramsey's gone. Jonathan Garvin's still there. So he's a guy that played last year and is vying for a spot. He's actually looked really good as well. So going to be a battle to the end with those guys. Like we already know that the starters are a lock. So pretty much the backups to those starters are the question marks. Who will take those spots? And, you know, I just want to see guys that can rush the passer and get sacks, you know, force turnovers, things like that on a consistent basis, because when you have a guy like Gary and a guy like Smith, things like that are going to happen, but they need a break too, so you need to be able to bring a guy in with fresh legs that can really get after it, and so that's what we're going to be looking for. So I'm excited to see what happens. I think Enagbar is the lock pretty much, but the battle between, you know, Ladarius Hamilton and Kobe Jones is pretty much going to be that fourth linebacker or outside linebacker spot. I don't think they keep much more than 4. I know Quay Walker can rush the passer. They were giving him looks at that spot. So, you know, there's just so many versatile players on this defense. They don't need to keep a lot of guys at certain spots just because they have other guys that can do the same thing. So we'll see how that goes, but I think it'll just be those 4. If depending on, if Kobe, but something to watch tomorrow. I'm excited. They got to get after the quarterback. Patrick Mahomes won't be playing, so for these guys, it'll be a little bit easier to get a sack maybe because they won't be having to chase Patrick Mahomes doing no looks and all over the place. So, but yeah, something to watch on those outside linebackers. And then getting to corner. Corner's not really a spot that we have a lot of question marks at. Finally, it's a position of strength. It seems like all these position groups are positions of strength so far. We haven't been this loaded and this stacked in a very long time. I don't think we've had crazy roster battles that are this deep for so long. Normally it's like who's going to be the second corner, but this year we have three that are starters with Jair, Stokes, and Douglas, and it's basically who's that fourth. We know John Charles, Shamar John Charles is probably going to be that fourth or fifth. But then who's going to be the other guy? Who's going to be the fourth or fifth? Other than Shamar. Casey Nixon looks like he might do it, but he's a cover guy, but I want to see him do more. Kabion Ento had a really crazy interception yesterday. I think he has a chance to jump back on this team after doing it last year. And then Rico Gafford, he was hurt. I don't know what his status for the game is right now. He was going to be kind of a kick returner corner. Fastest guy on the team, 4.22, but really a long shot to make the team. He's one of those with Casey or Keyshawn. I keep saying Casey. Keyshawn Nixon, Rico Gafford, and Dallin Levitt were all holdovers from the Rich Bisaccia team with the Raiders. So those guys, had kind of an inside track just because Bisaccia might have been able to keep three guys. Like, I get three guys. They're like, give me three special teams guys. So maybe that's what they would allowed him to do. So it would have been interesting to see if Gafford wasn't hurt, if he would have made it. But since he's hurt, I don't know if he'll make it. Maybe he'll be, a pup guy. I don't know how that'll work out. But either way, it's going to be a battle for sure with Keyshawn Nixon and Kabion Ento. Those two guys are kind of going back and forth. But it's just, who knows how many guys they'll keep at each position, because then that'll, kind of determine how many they can keep at other positions. So that's why the position battles are so fun to watch, because you never know how many guys they're going to keep and what guys can make it. So every play counts, and, every situation matters. And then, at safety with, Darnell Savage going down with the hamstring because he's got speed or fast people injuries, like you said. And Adrian Amos being, as good as he is, not having to really play in these games. It's a huge moment for these other safeties to really step up. Vernon Scott went down. So now it's, if Darnell Savage isn't ready to go week one, there's a starting spot open right now because Vernon Scott's down. Sean Davis has pretty much got the inside track for that spot based on, everybody else on this team isn't as experienced. But still, behind him then at the 3 and 4 spot as safety, there's openings too until they figure something out, or if Darnell Savage comes back. I know they let Vernon Scott go, and then Dallin Levitt's on IR. They might put him on IR, try to keep him on the practice squad, and it's gonna be really a huge strategy to see what they do when it comes to just every position group. Like I keep saying, it's these injuries just play such a role, and then how this practice squad works. It's all going to be crazy to watch. Whatever GMs and coaches can figure out how to manipulate this the best is going to be the team that really is able to build their roster, and it's going to be fun to watch because there's going to be guys that end up on the squad that other teams are trying to do the same thing with that are going to get swiped, that are going to be really good players. So it's tough to play with that, because if you put a guy out there that you hope doesn't get taken and he does, you're screwed then. So really kind of got to be smart about what you do, pick and choose. So, but then behind Sean Davis, Micah Abernathy had that huge interception last week, came out of the USFL pretty much that last week, got signed last week, played, last week, and had the big interception. So for him, it's super exciting. I think he's kind of got that inside track behind Sean Davis then. Tariq Carpenter is good too. I like him, the draft pick, but he's a guy that's so raw. They have a lot of coaching on him to do. So he's a guy that I think would be on the practice squad. And then, like I said, Dallin Levitt is injured. So what are they going to do with him? We'll see. That leads us to basically special teams, because that's where most of these guys, those backup corners and those backup safeties, backup tight ends and some receivers. Most of those guys end up on special teams, and that's what's so important because these guys play a huge role in one of the three phases of the game. We saw last year how important special teams is. We had a field goal blocked before the half, and then the punt blocked at the end of the game that basically tied the game, gave the Packers the ball back. We couldn't do anything with it. San Fran kicks a field goal and wins. That was it. So special teams is huge. We really need to make sure the long snapper's set. I think Jack Coco is going to be the guy. They like coaching him up. They like what they see out of him, his body type and all that stuff. So that I want to just watch how that goes. That's going to be really big tomorrow. Just make sure the operation's fluid. Just make sure everything goes well. Make sure the communication's right. Make sure the snap's good. Make sure it's, all those things on both field goals and punts. Hopefully we don't get to see a lot of punts, but hopefully enough that we know that our punt long snap situation is good. I don't have any question marks about Pat O'Donnell. He'll be fine. But getting the ball to Pat O'Donnell is going to be the issue. Blocking up front and communicating up front, the blocking assignments for everybody else is going to be the issue. So I hope to see a little bit of growth there. They've been doing well so far. No blocked field goals, not a lot of penalties on special teams, all that stuff. One kind of big kickoff return last week, but that happens. But that just means somebody's out of their lane. So it's important to have speed and just guys that know what they're doing, just all over. But kick return and punt return is where it's going to get interesting. If Rico Gafford can't go, then Aaron Rodgers is going to be the guy that probably gets the first look. I know they want to see Christian Watson back there and give him a look. Romeo Doubs was returning punts sometimes in training camp here, so we'll see what they do. They maybe somebody gets kicked off a team or cut from a team, and the Packers go out and get them. So they're always watching other rosters, always looking around the league, trying to make moves and figure stuff out. So we'll see what happens, but that's just a big spot right there. The Packers haven't had any return yards, really. No return touchdowns, not a lot of return success. We're always starting at like the 20 or inside the 25. And then you have a holding penalty and you're inside like the 15 and you just really shoot yourself in the foot when you have such a great quarterback. So if we can get a guy back there that can really do something and play well, get some return yards, flip the field on punts, things like that, it can really change the momentum of a game. So it's important to see what we can have. I know Samori Toure can probably do some of that stuff too, so maybe that's a spot for him. I don't know if some of these other corners can return kicks or not, but I know Rico Gafford was kind of here for that reason, but it looks like he is maybe on the flex now. We'll see. Just so many battles. I'm so excited. It's just all over the roster, it's going to be all over the field. And the Chiefs are a really good team to play against. I mean, obviously they got Mahomes, but the team top to bottom is pretty stacked. Andy Reid's a great coach. It's going to be a really good test for these guys, even though they're going up against like the second and third strings. It's going to be a really good test, and it's going to show Packers staff a lot of what they're going to need to see when it comes to what guys should be on this team. I can't wait, and I'm just super excited. It's finally here with preseason game 3. Finally here. That means that we have, 17 days then or whatever, 16 days then until September 11th, and that's super awesome. I just, like I said, it's been so long since we had football. Preseason's nice, but once the regular season starts, there's nothing like it. We all have so much anticipation for the start of the season. There's so much hope across the league based on everybody's team. Then there's week 1 overreactions based on, people winning and losing. Last year the Packers had that blunder and then they won 7 straight. And then there's teams like the Panthers that won their first 3 and then they lost and didn't make the playoffs. So there's a lot of hype going into the season, and it's just a really exciting time. Packers seem to be really healthy this year. They've got a lot of young talent. They've got a lot of veteran talent. And there's a lot of guys that, have been on the roster that are ready to really make splashes and show that they can be the star of the team. Guys like Rashawn Gary, who have kind of waited their turn, and it's time is now. A guy like Lazard, who's also waited his turn. Time is now for him to really make plays. So I'm super excited. I can't wait. Hope you guys are excited too. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And check you out in the next video. Peace out, guys. Go Packers.